Baseball's ERA metric is explained. The quarterback position in football is analyzed, and arguably the most historic collapse in college football is discussed. That's coming up next. Let's go! It's the Lurks Lessons Show, your weekly deep dive into the most impactful stories from the professional sporting leagues around the country. We'll analyze, discuss, and uncover the lessons they offer. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the show. My name is Jeff Lurks, and I am so excited for today's show in general, just because last week, if you saw, it was the very first episode, and just like whenever you start doing something brand new, you learn from not necessarily mistakes, but you learn how to do it better. And so far, every single day that has passed by since that first recording, I've been itching to do this episode. So I'm very excited. We're going to dive right into it. And just like the teaser explained, we're going to open up with the ERA metric when it comes to baseball. As you know, the postseason for the Major League Baseball is in full swing, and I just wanted to kind of like start from the ground up as far as the metrics of explanation, because if you watch anything about baseball, that sport is built on metrics, okay? They record everything, and it's so fascinating, the chess match when it comes to baseball. Now, don't get me wrong, other sports, they do their own metrics as well, but if you really see the stats when it comes to baseball, there's like so many of them. And so as I was preparing for this episode, I thought, okay, let's just go from the basics when it comes to pitchers. And so today we're going to talk about ERA. So what is ERA? ERA is defined as the average of earned runs allowed by a pitcher per 9 innings pitched. Okay, so essentially it is a metric. How do I have it? Measurement of pitching effectiveness. Because as you know, in baseball, you have your starting pitchers, your relief pitchers, and your closers. Okay. Doesn't mean like, sometimes starting pitchers can be a closer and vice versa. It depends on how the manager wants to manage the team. But all throughout every single pitcher, you at least have an ERA to base off of their effectiveness when it comes to pitching. Okay. So how is that measured? It is literally measured by dividing the number of earned runs allowed by the number of innings pitched. So you take the earned runs that have been allowed by that pitcher, divided by the number of innings pitched, then you multiply that summation by 9, because 9 innings is usually the typical starting point when it comes to a game. Now, sometimes you go into extra innings, but 9 innings is pretty much the base metric, okay? So whatever that number is tallied, the lowest number of that is good, okay? So I kind of threw together an example for you so that way you can wrap your brain around this. If you're a starting pitcher, okay, and you pitched 6 innings all throughout, okay, 6 innings throughout 5 games. In those 5 games, you gave up 7 runs. So you take 7 divided by 30, because remember, 6 innings times 5 is 30. So 7 divided by 30 times 9, like we said, equals 2.1 ERA, which is really good. So it doesn't matter if you're a starting pitcher, a relief pitcher, or even a closer. They literally take how many runs have been earned based on when you were on the mound. And sometimes that metric, as far as innings pitched, can be like a 0.1 or, as I hit the mic, 0.1 or a 0.2, because not all pitchers can close out an inning. Sometimes you'll hear them say, oh, well, starting pitcher XYZ pitched 6 2/3 of an inning. That meant that 6 innings with 2 outs, that starting pitcher got relieved by someone from the bullpen, okay? So I wanted to at least start off the episode with that, because as you're watching the postseason right now, because that's what's going on here in October, is you will see some of the on-screen graphics of some of these pitchers that, especially whether it's the start of the game, you'll see their ERA, but you'll also see relief pitchers come in, and ERA is usually the first thing you should notice, because that metric will allow hey, this pitcher is actually very, very good because of how low that number is, okay? Now, I wanted to highlight one of the players that are no longer in the postseason. They were in the postseason, but I wanted to show you, like, okay, this has been the crown jewel as a starting pitcher. Okay, and that pitcher's name is Tarek Skubal, and he pitched for the Detroit Tigers, who ended up losing to the Seattle Mariners in the ALDS 3-2. Okay, and just so that way, I want to preface this on like how good this pitcher is, so that way you have a baseline measurement of as far as like, okay, this pitcher is at the very top of the league. So his ERA as the MLB leader this past season was 2.21. Okay, now starting pitchers usually throughout the course of a season pitches at least or starts 20 to 25 games. Okay, so you take that average. If you go about like 6.5 to maybe 7.5 innings, that's really good. That's usually the longevity of a starting pitcher. Obviously, you want to close out the game, but that's usually the case. All right. So you take that number, 20, 25 games, 6 to 7.5 innings, times that, and you do all the math that we just talked about. His ERA is 2.21. That's mind-boggling. Okay. In the playoffs, when he played against, or the Tigers, I should say, when the Tigers play the Cleveland Guardians in the wild card round, and then now against the Mariners, he started 3 games. He pitched 20.2 innings, so 20 and 2/3, gave up 4 runs, and his ERA during that stretch is 1.74. I'm letting that sit for a second because that's incredible, all right? During that stretch, 36 strikeouts, 4 walks, 10 hits. The dude's on another level, and he's only 28 years old. He becomes a free agent in 2027. Detroit either better cough up a lot of cash to keep this cat, or teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers and even Houston, like some of these players, or excuse me, some of these franchises that have a big bank load are going to come in and try to snatch this guy up because this dude is really good. Okay. So all that to say is ERA is a great metric to know about pitching effectiveness. So when you watch the postseason, or if you hear somebody talk about baseball, you can bring this to the conversation. Okay. So as we go into that, it's a good segue into the next topic at hand. As you see our show rundown, Major League Baseball, we're in the championship series. And from last week, who got the prediction right? Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. I don't get a lot of things right, but I got the prediction right. I actually was 3 for 4. I was actually surprised by that. The Cubs actually played their hearts out. I didn't think they would. I thought they got swept, but they didn't. They went all 5 games. So anyways, let's go ahead and look at the bracket, shall we? So like right now we have the Mariners taking a 2-0 series lead on the Toronto Blue Jays. And then the Dodgers took a 1-0 lead last night against the Brewers. But here we are. We're in the championship series. This is a best of 7 game series now, because as we talked about last week, wild card round was best of 3. Divisional series is best of 5, and now we're in the best of 7. Okay. So as I discussed last week, it's crazy that the Mariners are up 2-0 because they have never been to the World Series in their entire franchise history. So they're 2 games away from making an historic appearance, which is awesome. I feel bad for the Toronto Blue Jays because I'll be honest, your boy here would love to see the Mariners in it just because, like I shared last week, I cheer for the teams who have never been there before. Okay. So the Blue Jays, the last time they were in the World Series was 1993. Okay. And that's when they won back-to-back. So they won in 92 and 93. So that was pretty cool that they did that as a franchise, but they haven't been back since. So if you look across the board in the National League Series, Milwaukee, the last time they've been to the World Series was 1982, if my research is correct. Yes, 1982, and they lost 4-3 to the St. Louis Cardinals. So they were 1 game away from winning a World Series championship. Would have been their first in franchise history. So they're in the hole though right now. They're down 1-0, and if the Dodgers make it to the World Series, again, they have the biggest bank. If they don't, it's kind of like a huge letdown because you have a $350 million cash flowing right now. But if the Dodgers do end up going to the World Series, not only will they be defending their title since they won it last year, but that would make their 5th trip in the last 9 years since 2017. That's pretty amazing. They've gone 2-2. Again, this is for the last since 2017. They went 2-2. They won in 2020 and then last year in 24. So 5 World Series in 9 years. That would arguably be a pretty significant dynasty that they are building right now. And to be honest, with Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, and the like they're going to be hard to beat. Milwaukee has their work cut out for them. So as you're watching the championship series, like I shared earlier in the show about ERA, just pay attention to whenever these relief pitchers come out or the starting pitchers before the game starts. Look at their ERA, because that will give you some reference to be like, oh wow, this guy's ERA is pretty decent compared to the starting pitcher on the other team. You can actually see how that plays out. Now, it's not a be all end all metric, okay? It's just there to allow managers to know, okay, this is who we're playing. We're facing a Tarek Skubal where we have our work cut out for us. So we're going to do everything we can to get batters on base, whether that is trying to get walks or your whole offensive strategy kind of changes based on who's on the mound that you're facing, okay? So me personally, to end this segment as far as the Major League Baseball postseason, I would love to see the Mariners face the Brewers. Both of those squads, they're in that mid-market tier as far as cash flow, and those have been the longest droughts. Like I shared, the Blue Jays were there in the 90s, Dodgers were there last year. But if it does become a Blue Jays-Dodgers series, I would still watch it because I love sports. So I'm curious to know, who do you have or who are you trying to pull for as far as the World Series of 2025? All right, let me know in the comments. That'd be great to kind of see where everyone's leaning towards, okay? So moving right along, there has been some significant things that has happened last week when it comes to football at large, okay? And one of the things that I've noticed that I wanted to dive into today was the quarterback position, okay? So there's been some storylines in college sports and along with the NFL about the quarterback position. So let's just focus on why the quarterback position is so valuable, okay? So that way you can feel confident in being like, oh, I know a thing or two of why this position is so crucial for a team's success. I broke it down like this, okay? First, you have to know the playbook, okay? The offensive coordinator or the head coach is going to ring in a play or signal a play, and you have to know exactly what that play is, all right? Not only do you have to know the play, but you have to know the routes. Essentially, all of your teammates, where they're going to be. Are they going to run a post route or a hitch route? Where are they going to be at on the field, okay? When you line up to snap the ball, you have to look at what's ahead of you. You have to read the defense. Some defenses could be, let's say, in a cover 2, cover 1. What defense is being presented to you? Because that is very important to understand. So that way you know if the play that you called is going to be effective against the defense that is showing to you, okay? So do you call an audible or you just go ahead and do the play? So let's say you do the play. You hike the ball gets snapped to you. Your average time, and this is what I do whenever I watch football. The average time a play can, let's say, progress downfield without getting sacked, aka your offensive line in front of you has this much time on average to help block the defenders so that way you can pass the ball. All right. Again, we're focusing just on passing, not necessarily handoff, because the handoff happens instantly just like that. You just give it to the running back and now off they go. Okay. So we're just focused on passing because this is where the quarterback is so valued. You hike the ball. You have an average of 3 seconds. 3 seconds to read the routes, see which player is open, throw the ball without getting tackled. Okay. Whenever I watch college or NFL, whenever I see the quarterback drop back into pass, I literally count in my head 1, 2, 3. And depending on that, that's usually when the either pocket collapses or the pocket is extended where you're like, oh, wow, the offensive line is doing a great job of blocking the defenders to allow the play to continue. Or you see the quarterback realizing the pocket has collapsed, there's nobody open, so either they have to throw it out of bounds that's near a receiver so they don't get a PI for that, or they extend the play by scrambling, which is a term where the quarterback is literally going to be running outside and trying to keep the play alive without getting tackled, okay? I can't stress enough on how difficult that is, because understanding where you're trying to read a play, but then you have this like internal clock to know like, hey, I feel like the pocket is going to collapse soon. I better get rid of this ball. And you'll sometimes see some quarterbacks do this where they know the pocket is collapsing, but they understand that 1 extra second, that receiver is going to be open. So I'm going to stick in the pocket. I know I'm going to get hit, but I'm going to throw a dime to that wide receiver downfield because I know they're going to be open just based off of the coverage that I see, and I'm going to get hit pretty good. And by the way, a dime is just a term used where it's like you take quarters, nickels, and dimes. Like a dime is like the smallest. I'm trying to draw like a circle with my finger on screen here, which is not good. But essentially, a dime is like this small, right? And so you are precision throwing, essentially like only the wide receiver can catch it. And you're going to get clocked just because of that internal clock of knowing the pocket is collapsing, okay? That is the reason why the quarterback is so valuable. You'll see this in some cases, which we mentioned last week where Lamar Jackson got hurt for the Ravens. Lamar there's a reason why he has been voted the MVP of the league, is because that dude has the ability to not only scramble to extend plays, but to also, when he knows the pocket is collapsing and nobody out there is open, he has the legs to just go the distance and the agility to get away from some of these defenders, okay? I preface all that to say that these next 2 topics that we're going to talk about is very interesting on why, let me just say this. It's just interesting on why things are happening the way they are, because it affects the quarterback position, okay? So next time you're watching a football game and the quarterback is going to pass the ball, just start counting in your head, 1, 2, 3, and see what happens, okay? Usually, if you can get the ball out in 2 seconds, that's pretty good, because then the quarterback knows, oh, that person's wide open, we're going to quickly throw it to that person. But if a quarterback is able to extend plays, you'll hear this from defensive backs, especially cornerbacks, that they also have an internal clock as well, because again, their head is usually turned away. They can't see if the quarterback is going to be throwing the pass or not, or when they will be throwing the pass. But if a quarterback can extend a play at least more than 5 seconds, that's when it's almost kind of like backyard football, where people are just kind of running in spaces where they're open, and a quarterback can then hit a wide open receiver, and those cornerbacks are like, wait a minute, did the ball get thrown? Like, I can't. So all that to say is that's why they're usually the captains of the team. That's why they get paid so much money. Because everything that I just kind of broken down for you, like, that's a lot to take in. I guess the point I'm trying to bring home to you is that right when that ball is snapped, you have to read everything, throw it accurately without getting hit. And I know that's why offensive linemen are paid a certain amount of money as well to help with that, but there are some defensive tackles out there that are just ridiculous, okay? So all that to say is, I think the biggest thing you want to take away from this particular lesson is count to 3 whenever you watch a passing play by a quarterback. That's how I do it. Okay, so that would move into this 4th topic, where we have a very interesting trade that happened this past week in the NFL. And that was a veteran quarterback, Joe Flacco, was traded from the Cleveland Browns to the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, this is not abnormal, really, when you see a quarterback being traded within teams during a season. Okay, that's why sometimes you see depth charts go 3 deep. Within certain franchises. Cleveland was very unique in this situation going into this season because they had 5, which is weird. But Joe Flacco got traded, and the reason why this is significant is because, one, he's 40 years old. He was a Super Bowl champion back when he was with the Ravens in Super Bowl 48. He actually won the MVP, Super Bowl MVP that year, which is amazing for him. But since then, he's kind of been a journeyman. He's with now Cincinnati. He's now on his 9th team since being in the NFL. And I think what's interesting is because Cincinnati is so desperate to have some sort of cohesion at the quarterback position because their star, Joe Burrow, suffered turf toe in week 2, and he's out for at least 3 months because that is a significant injury. Their backup, Jake Browning, came out of Washington Huskies in college. He's 0 for 3 now as a starter, and he's been with the Bengals. This is his 3rd season, I believe. I could be wrong on that. So the fact that Cincinnati not only traded for a veteran quarterback, but also in division, which is interesting because this would be the 3rd in division team that one quarterback has played for, which I don't think has ever happened in the NFL, which is kind of crazy because Joe Flacco played for the Ravens, now the Browns, and Cincinnati, all within the same division. Okay. The quarterback position is so important, as I just described, that teams are willing to do weird things in order to find the right fit and move forward, okay? And I can't stress that enough because you'll see as if you are going to follow the NFL throughout the rest of the season, you'll see some other injuries that will pop up. And that's another reason why teams that are healthy going into the postseason and extending the postseason, like that, those are usually the teams that will win a Super Bowl because they are healthy, okay? It's very tough. It's very tough. I mean, you look at Cincinnati's next slate of games. Thankfully, they're all at home. This upcoming Thursday, they got another in-division rival with Pittsburgh coming into town. Then they play the Jets and then the Bears. So, I mean, I guess my question to you, like, do you see Joe Flacco having a successful year in Cincinnati? I mean, he was 1-4 as a starter, I believe, with Cleveland. He didn't do well last year because last year he got released by Cleveland the previous season. Again, if you can follow along with this, he got picked up in 2023 because Cleveland had a struggling quarterback situation. They picked him up late in the season, and he took them to the wild card round in the playoffs. He won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2023. But that wild card round, they lost to the Houston Texans. What was it, 45-14? Then he got released, and then he got picked up by the Colts. Didn't do very well. Browns picked him up again, and now here he is with Cincinnati. So comment below on if you think Joe is going to actually lead a better season than he would have in Cleveland, because Cleveland clearly didn't see that because he got benched after their loss against, I think it was against Detroit. So anyways, that's the kind of like the quarterback carousel, if you will, when it comes to the NFL. So if you ever hear Joe Flacco's name, you can definitely use that information on your next conversation. As teased at the beginning, the most historic collapse I've seen in my young lifetime is Penn State. Now, why? There's a lot of questions why, and there are some people out there that are on the airwaves that are way smarter than me. And so you can definitely tap into them as far as like they'll give you way more information. But I'll just give you just kind of the surface level so that way you can go into your friends' topics of conversation and kind of like go from there. Okay, because again, that's what this whole show is about. I'm just gonna give it to you straight, and then you can take it from there. Okay. So Penn State fired their head coach. His name is James Franklin. Okay, James Franklin was in his 12th season being Penn State's head coach. Okay, the preseason poll was they were ranked number 2. Everybody of as far as importance when it comes to college football were literally praising Penn State because they were thinking, oh, this is the year that they got a senior quarterback coming back. They made it to the semifinals last year, lost to Notre Dame. They are poised to win the Big Ten, which is the conference that they are in. Ohio State, who was the defending national champions, who is also in the Big Ten, didn't get as high of a ranking because the fear is that Ohio State lost a lot of their players to the NFL draft, and some coaching carousel got moved around as well. So there was not as much stock put into Ohio State than it was Penn State, because Penn State was literally returning a lot and actually got the defensive coordinator from Ohio State to Penn State. So on paper, it looked like they are poised to make a run to not only win the Big Ten championship, but also potentially play for a national championship. And then the 60 minutes that has to be played on every single weekend happened. So Penn State literally hosted Oregon, who was an in-conference opponent. They were ranked 6th, and they lost to them, which we covered last week. Since then, they lost to UCLA and just recently to Northwestern by 1 point. Why that is significant is because both of those matchups, Penn State was favored by 20 points. 20 points, okay? So I think the other reason why the athletic director at Penn State was a little hesitant on firing James Franklin after the UCLA loss is because he is owed, if he was going to be fired, he was going to be owed $49 million, okay? They still decided to do that, which I think is the right call. So James Franklin gets paid $49 million, preseason ranked number 2. They are now they are a 3-loss team. They could easily be a 7-5, 6-6 team now, which is crazy because unfortunately their quarterback, Drew Aller, got injured with a leg injury last week against Northwestern, and now he's out for the entire season. So you have your best player not being able to play, quarterback not being able to play, and you lose your head coach. I don't think has ever been, I didn't have time to research this, but in most recent memory, anybody that has been in the top 5 ranked would not get this far down. Like, not only is Penn State not ranked, but they're a 3-loss team. Excuse me, they're a 3-loss team, and they could easily be a 6-6 team. Because I look at their next slate of games, they're at Iowa, then they're at Ohio State, which before the season started, that was like the big circle on everyone's calendar. It's like, that's going to be a great, great game. But then they're at home against Indiana, and Indiana right now is ranked number 3rd in the AP poll, which you can see on screen right now. I mean, Curt Cignetti, the head coach over there, has done a great job. This is his 2nd year, and they just took down Oregon last week at Oregon, okay? Penn State couldn't do that. I mean, Penn State had them at home. They lost to him in double overtime, which was a crucial blow. I'm not going to lie, but Indiana is looking like a strong favorite, in my opinion, to make it to the Big Ten championship game because they can easily run the table from here on out and probably will face Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis. Okay, so here's some other things I wanted to share about James Franklin. So James Franklin, he came from Vanderbilt, and it was very successful there. 39-24 record, won 2 bowl games. So he gets the Penn State gig from 2014 to today. His record is 104-45. To a lot of schools, that's incredible. Like 104-45 record, that's amazing. The catch is that he is not able to win the big games. Okay, and you'll hear this. Everyone's talking about it. They're winning the games against the teams that they should beat. Okay, because Penn State it's a great school. They have a great history, great tradition. They usually bring out some really good talent. Okay, they're usually one of the blue bloods when it comes to the Big Ten Conference, when it comes to football. He is 4-21 against top 10 ranked opponents. That stings, okay? And when you have a program like Penn State and you're winning the games that you're supposed to win, and you're not beating the teams that gets you to that next level, that's tough. I mean, you look at when they ran the table in last year, they played against SMU, and then they played Boise State. And then when they finally played Notre Dame, Notre Dame ends up, giving it to them. So that's where it's like, yeah, they made a run in the college football playoff, but they played against schools that typically don't have a great talent pool to come from. Okay, that's not a knock on SMU or Boise, but both those teams are not even ranked in the top 25 this year. So my point being, they had a really good season last year. Where are they at now, right? Penn State, same example. They're not in the top 25. So I'm interested to see what happens with James going forward. I do wish him the best because, to be honest, like that's tough. Like you're trying to put something together, and that has to eat at you when you know, like, oh, it's a top 10 opponent. I'm 4-20 or I'm 4-21. That kind of gets to you. So I think the AD did a great job of just eating the cost, because right now you have to. It's not to save the season. You got to think long term, because this could potentially be something that can be toxic in the locker room, because you're trying to recruit, you're trying to get that next recruiting class in. And I mean, losing to the teams that you're supposed to beat, you're favored by 20. Yeah, a change has to happen. And so with him leaving, and again, Drew Aller being hurt, I think the fall from Penn State it's historic. Like you're not going to see something like this, hopefully, not again. So we'll see what happens if they can make it into a bowl game, which I think they will. I think they'll at least finish 7-5 because I saw the rest of their games. They should beat Iowa, but Ohio State, Indiana, yeah, they're going to be a 5-loss team easily. Okay, going to the community questions. All right, so now we got all of our topics talked about. We have a question from Luis Halo or Halo. I'm terrible with this. Luis Halo 19. When they watched the Baseball Rules Explained video, they had 2 questions. All right, here we go. Okay, I have a couple of questions that I didn't understand. When the batter hits the ball and it's not a home run and starts running, does he have to stop at first base, or can he continue to run to second base? And then what happens when all 9 batters complete a half inning without 3 outs? Does the team switch, or they continue endlessly until they get 3 outs? Thank you, Luis, for your question. Well, to be honest, yes, when the batter hits the ball, they have the opportunity to choose if they want to continue on to second base or third base, if they want to have the risk of not getting tagged out. Typically, whenever a batter hits a ball deep into the infield, or better yet, deep within the ballpark, like you said, it's not a home run, they're going to be watching what the fielder does. Sometimes, like if the ball gets stuck in the crevice, then they're like, okay, I have the speed right now where I can make it to second base standing up, meaning that they don't have to slide in to not get tagged out. Okay. But anytime you progress to an additional base when a ball is in play, you run the risk of getting tagged out, and you have to be tagged out. Okay. But when you reach a base, then you're safe. Okay. So yes, depending on how the ball is being played or how it's being fielded, sometimes a fielder can like try to pick it up and then bobble it, or not have a chance to like throw it. Then you can be like, oh, wow, I can make it to third base. Okay. So that's kind of like the thrilling part of the game sometimes. Like when the ball is in play and the base runner is running around, you have seen in the park home runs where essentially the base runner has been sprinting and hitting every single base. And because of the fielding, how something happened, they're like, oh, I'm keep going. But that's why you have the base coaches on. If you ever see the team's coach standing by first and third base, that's their job. Their job is to kind of watch what is happening, and they'll usually like do a waving motion or circular motion with their arm to allow the runner know, like, yeah, you're good, because it's very difficult, especially running from second base to third base, to have eyes in the back of your head when you hit to that center or that side of the park. It's hard. So that's why you'll either see the base running coach to be like putting both hands up to be like stop, or to wave them home, essentially. Okay. So great question on that first one. And then the second one, yeah, you continuously going through the batting lineup until the opposing team gets 3 outs. It's rare that happens, especially in one inning, but it has happened. And sometimes you'll have batters go up to bat and will bat twice in one inning, which is pretty cool. the fact where some batters can have that multiple at bats, especially at the same pitcher, or hopefully they'll change the pitcher out to try to get those 3 outs. You just keep going. And sometimes, like, I think the average, and this is me off the cuff here, I think the average at bats one batter will face is at least 4. I think that's the average, because, typically it could, well, if a pitcher is like really, striking everybody out and it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, I think it's only 3 times a batter's up, but it's typically about 4 times you will see the plate to have a chance to hit the ball. So yeah, you just keep on going until you get your 3 outs. So thank you for your questions, Luis. And again, if you have any questions, please comment below or comment on one of the lessons that we have on the channel. Okay. All right. As we wrap up today's show, we have what's up next. Okay. Like I shared before, I'm working on the Major League Baseball World Series Championship ebook. I just finished 1959. And we're moving right along. There's over 100 years of World Series matchups. And so the corresponding video would also be released whenever a World Series champion is crowned after this season. So that would be the next video. After that, like I shared last week, I'm thinking about doing another football video as we go into the end of the year. Whether that be offensive or defensive formations, I haven't decided yet, but that's what's percolating in the mind. But one of the big things I'm really excited about is, like I shared last week, we have the Lurks Lessons board game called Franchise that is currently in production and designing still. I've been working on that since 2022. But I actually have a meeting tomorrow with the proposal or hopeful, let's just call it hopeful, manufacturer. And so we're going to go over all of the stuff that needs to be taken care of to start that process because, the goal is to have at least the campaign start in August of 2026. Okay. But yeah, what is Franchise? I'll just read it from the box. Franchise is the ultimate deck building game of sports franchise management. You essentially have a bank, you draft your players, you have to win 3 championships without going bankrupt. So yeah, and you can choose between these nice 4 fictitious franchises: Green Grasshoppers, Yellow Yetis, Red Roosters, or the Blue Bisons. Okay, maybe comment below and let me know which one is your favorite design. Okay, or which one do you think is the most feared mascot? They all look pretty cool. So, anyways, to close this episode out, today felt really good. As I shared at the beginning of the episode, you learn a lot as you go. And with this being the second episode, I can't wait to see you next week. But I'm looking for this particular close of the week. Seattle's literally 2 wins away from making a historic appearance in the World Series. I really hope that happens. The NHL season is officially here, which is awesome. And the NBA tips off next Tuesday. So within our recording next Tuesday, the NBA will be officially here. So that's going to be awesome. So you can check out the Lurks Lessons Show here on YouTube or on Spotify. And happy learning, and I'll see you next week.